Welcome to that Groovy Scoobcast, your go-to audio hub for all things Scooby-Doo. And this week, we have kidnapped Scooby-Doo.
Operator, get me Hollywood. I don't know, anyone in charge of paying ransoms. Hi guys, my name is Derek.
And I'm Shannon.
And we did not actually kidnap Scooby-Doo.
We like Scooby-Doo. Most of the time.
Yes. Today, we are watching the Ransom of Scooby Chief from the first Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. This is actually the last episode of this series, and it was an interesting watch in my opinion. What did you think about it, Shannon?
I liked it.
Yeah?
I will admit that we watched this 3 times.
Because you kept falling asleep.
I fell asleep twice, but still a very good episode.
I will be fair to you, you had a headache the first time we watched.
Yeah.
So
I was just kind of laid down, got comfy, and just passed out halfway through it.
Right. So we will dive into that in just a sec. But first, we're going to kick off the Mystery Machine Match, our weekly trivia competition where Shannon and I try to figure out which one of us knows Scooby-Doo better than the other. Currently, our points are sitting with me with 6 points and Shannon with 5. Shannon, are you going to take the upper hand today?
I'd like to think so, but I'm going to go with no, because I'm looking at my questions, and you're going to know them again.
You know, I like that you read them like ahead of time, because I never read these until I actually read them to you.
I have to know what I'm reading. I was that kid that, counted the paragraphs in class so that I could, pre-read my paragraph.
You were prepared.
Yeah.
Well, as always, Shannon, you can go first today.
When the gang meets Get Smart star Don Adams, he is running a bug extermination company in what sunny U.S. city?
Are there no options?
There are no
Oh, no. I've only seen that episode, once. It's a new Scooby-Doo movies episode.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. It's in a U.S. city, right?
Yeah.
Is there any hint you can give me? Because I have no idea.
With all of the love, I'm not going to give you a hint because the other 2 questions you're going to know right off the bat.
Okay, so
I'm making you struggle with this one.
I don't know. Philadelphia.
No. Los Angeles.
Of course.
Sunny City.
Oh, you did say that. I don't know why. Okay. I don't know. I'm over it. Here's your first question.
Okay.
And of course, it's about a movie you've never seen. In Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, what is the first level that the gang is transported to in the video game? I can list off all 10 of them because I know that you haven't actually seen the movie if you want.
Yes.
Okay.
Because.
Well, you know what? I'll pick 3 and one of them will be the answer.
Okay.
So, one of the levels that they went to was Under the Sea.
Okay.
One level they were in was the Roman Colosseum.
Okay.
And the other one would be the moon.
The Roman Colosseum.
The moon.
Damn it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That was the only one that sounded familiar.
Well, I think the way I also said the moon just made it sound like it was a throwaway.
You were like, they didn't fucking go there.
They didn't fucking go to the moon. No one's been to the moon, Shannon.
Oh. Is the Earth also flat, Derek?
It might be.
It might be.
Bitch, it might be. What's your next question for me?
Okay, so you definitely know this because we actually just talked about this last week.
Okay.
What network first broadcasted Scooby-Doo? CBS, NBC, or ABC?
CBS.
Yeah.
Here is your next question. What 1984 Who You Gonna Call movie inspired the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that.
Fun.
I'm trying to think of where the inspiration is coming from, but
Ghost hunting.
Is that it? Okay.
They were just hey, you know what'd be funny?
If we took Scooby-Doo, which already ghost hunts.
Yeah.
And we made it like the Ghostbusters, but we didn't.
Yeah, but we didn't.
What's your last question for me?
Which member of Mystery Inc. does Dusty look like?
Oh, Shaggy.
Yeah.
I had to think of who Dusty was. Who the fuck is Dusty? Here's your last question. Finish the name of this creature. Time Grime or Time Slime?
Time Slime?
Yes, you are correct. He's one of the 13 ghosts.
Oh, I was like, is that a real creature's name?
No, they just wanted you to finish. It has nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. It's just in the Scooby-Doo trivia game. But it's not a Scooby-Doo
It's nothing
monster.
to do with Scooby-Doo.
Right. Well, it looks like today you are picking up 2 points. I am picking up 2 points, bringing our totals to 8 and 7. You are still 1 behind. Are you going to beat me again?
I mean, I'm trying. This isn't from, like, lack of not trying. Like, I just genuinely don't know. Like,
the moon.
The moon. I don't fucking know.
Well, that was this week's Mystery Machine match. So you ready to start talking about the Ransom of Scooby Chief?
Yes.
Okay. Our premise today is coming from Scoobypedia. The gang head to New York City and drop off Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy so they can visit Scrappy's old neighborhood. Soon, Scooby and Shaggy are kidnapped, and it is up to Scrappy and his puppy friends to get him back.
That is what happens. I want to know, like, why Fred, Daphne, and Velma really weren't in this episode. They just dropped them off and were just like, okay, see you, bye.
It's more of an external problem than it is within the show. Mm-hmm. I was watching a video. I'll have to provide a link or something to it on Twitter or something, but it was a video about how Scrappy kind of saved the Scooby-Doo franchise back in the 80s when he was first introduced. And it was getting like increasingly hard when it came to scheduling to have like the voices of Fred, Daphne, and Velma all in the same room or something like that, I think. And I think after a while they just decided to end up cutting those characters out for a little while. And that's why like in the next 2 series that we watch, like they're gone.
Yeah.
Another thing to note that I thought was really interesting, and you know, it's part of this episode specifically, that video I'm referencing, they also mentioned in it that in this episode, Velma doesn't even talk, like, at all.
I wrote down how many lines they had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because Scoobypedia says that she has one, that she said, like, have a good time or something like that.
If she did, like, it may have come out of Velma's mouth, but that was Daphne's voice.
No, you don't see them say it at all. Because, like, they're
okay.
in the Mystery Machine, and you're just looking at Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy. Here, I'm going to look up that quote because that's going to bug me until I realize what it is. Velma apparently said, have a good visit.
I think
it was right before the Mystery Machine drove off, but you don't see which character is saying it. And it sounds like Daphne's voice actress, in my opinion. Yeah, because
I counted it as, because I wrote down that Velma didn't have any lines. Daphne had 3, and then Fred had 2.
Okay.
Because Daphne said something like when they first got out of the car, then Fred said something, and then as they were driving away, I thought it was Daphne that said, have a good visit.
And they have lines at the end of the episode, too,
and then,
when they show back
and then
up,
they each have 2, or each have 1 at the end of the episode.
I would love to know what they were doing. You know, like Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy are dropped off, and they're just living it up in New York,
That's my thing. Like, they dropped them off in New York, and literally, think about it this way. You drop off your 2 dogs and your dumbest friend in a really sketchy ass part of New York, and
sorry,
are just like,
it does look that way, Scrappy. No offense.
Yeah,
but...
well, I mean, that's his old like hood rat like part. Like, let him hood rat it up. That's fine, but like, it's sketchy. So you're dropping off your 2 dogs, your 2 talking dogs, and your dumb friend in a sketchy part of New York, and then you're like, yeah, have a great time. And as you're leaving, because I do want to talk about this scene. Like, as they're pulling up, Fred runs over a manhole cover, which hits a fire hydrant, so that starts spraying everywhere.
Oh, jeez.
So, like, as that happens, they're like, have a good visit, and they leave. And I'm like, you just, like, fucked up big time, and then you just leave.
Bye! Like... And then another thing, I think you mentioned it when we were watching the episode at first, but I like that you observed that just Shaggy would rather hang out with the dogs.
Yeah!
Than with Fred, Daphne, and Velma.
Like, whatever Fred, Daphne, and Velma do, Shaggy was just like, I'm gonna hang out with the dogs.
Right. So I noted that the Statue of Liberty at the beginning of this episode, I don't think it is, but like the torch in the episode is on fire, like it's lit.
Yeah.
I don't think the real one does that.
I don't know.
But yeah,
I thought the real one like glowed or something.
I think it has lights in there, but that one was on fire.
Yeah, that one was
was
on fire.
In flames. That was like a terrorist attack, Shannon. Like, that was scary. There's a lot going on. That's why you don't see anybody in the streets, because everyone's hiding in fear.
Just 4 dogs and some dog nappers.
4 dogs. I'll write the other two dogs. I already forgot about them. I don't care about these dogs.
Annie and Duke are the most important people.
We'll get to them in just a sec, though. I had one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where Scrappy evidently grew up.
Where's his mom?
That's exactly. I was wondering, where is Ruby Doo?
Yeah, like, could you imagine coming home, hanging out with, like, me and Steph, and then just never going to see your mom?
Yeah. We also see these two men. They are watching as Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy are, just left behind by the Mystery Machine. Their names are Tony and Carl. They are the antagonists of the episode.
I don't think I ever caught their names.
Yeah, I caught them. So the short guy with the white hair on his sides, that's Tony.
Okay.
And then Carl is the slim, taller guy with the mischievous mustache, and he's evidently the smart one in the group. They want to kidnap Scooby because apparently he's famous enough to where they just know who he is.
Which is so funny because there's like 5 whole minutes of them debating if that's Scooby or not.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, if you know Scooby, then you probably know the rest of the gang,
yeah,
right?
like you would know that
would you
Shaggy...
not recognize the Mystery Machine that just dropped them off?
Yeah, like it's just weird.
I guess Scooby is famous now in this world, so... Okay. So Scrappy leads Scooby and Shaggy to go to Annie's place. Yes. So Annie is one of the 2 puppies that Scrappy grew up with. He does a secret whistle, which
is loud as fuck.
Scooby and Shaggy fucking hate it. They're just closing their ears, and Shaggy's like, how about we just keep that a secret?
Yeah.
And I'm like, same. So Annie pops her head out of the window. So she
like got mad. She was like, who's whistling? The only person that knows that whistle is Scrappy.
Scrappy. Yeah. She is a long-haired white puppy. I'm going to guess like a Maltese or something.
Yeah, something.
So she has like really, really long hair, and it goes over her eyes, and a running gag throughout the episode is that she can't see anything. It got old real quick.
Yeah.
And then
she like falls down 4 stories of stairs.
Something like that. And she ends up landing on like a board that counterweights a box that sleeping inside is Duke, the other friend that we're going to meet today.
Which I'm thinking Duke is homeless. Like, he has a collar and stuff, so maybe not, but like...
Maybe he's a stray, and he's just living in the box.
Maybe he's missing, and he just doesn't know how to get home.
So
because he has a collar, like someone invested money in him.
Yeah, but then also he's just sleeping in a box outside of his other friend's house. Yeah. I'm going to do that to you. I'm just going to sleep. I'm going to find a box. I'm going to put it in your front yard, and I'm just be like, oh, hey.
My dad would spray you with the hose. They're like, get this trash out of here.
So I like that Scrappy continuously calls these dogs like his gang. Like, this is Scrappy's gang. And I'm like, I'm tired of the gang violence. We've got the mystery gang. We've got the art swindlers gang. And now we've got the Scrappy gang. And I'm like, really?
Gang on gang.
Too many gangs, you guys. Yeah. Scrappy explains that when he left New York, he was like with his uncle, and they've been splatting and ghosts and monsters, and he introduces Scooby. He's very proud to introduce Scooby.
Now, this is where I wanted to talk about, because when we first started like talking about Scrappy and stuff, I think even in season 1, I had speculated that like Scrappy his whole life was kind of like told stories about how badass his uncle is. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of agreeing with my speculation more, because as he's telling his friends about Scooby, like they kind of act like they've heard these stories before also, because they're like, oh, well, introduce us to this like famous uncle of yours.
Right, because like he didn't have to say like really anything about him. Like they kind of knew who he was. Yeah.
So they were like, oh, well, let's meet your Uncle Scooby. And then like he brought Scooby over and stuff. But yeah, I think that this is something that they all grew up like hearing about, like, your Scooby's so badass, like he's doing all this stuff. And
well, even to reinforce that, here's a quote that I wrote down from Scrappy. He says that everybody knows him. He's so famous.
I want to know what happened in this universe
to make him famous.
Yeah.
Because like
famous enough in Hollywood.
Right. We'll get to that in a moment. But like, didn't we say something recently about
I had asked
how famous they are in this world?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think they do allow a lot of like mystery solving. So right then and there, that'd be like famous. You can be famous, but like they're famous in Hollywood. Like there's consistent like Hollywood gags.
Right, and it's so like they're in a movie or something.
Like even if you're famous enough for, solving mysteries, that's like news famous, you know?
Right. Yeah, because you can't argue that this is canon to Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood, which actually came out before this episode.
Yeah, I had actually questioned that.
You did, and That's when we were talking about
Yeah.
it. I knew we talked about it at one point.
Yeah.
No, but the thing with the Goes Hollywood movie is that's like a meta movie. Like these characters that we're talking about are being played by actors who we follow in that movie.
Yeah.
It's not those actual characters. It's actors basically like
playing.
You know, they're on set for Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Yeah.
Which is just too meta on its own for Scooby-Doo. I can't handle it. But back to this episode. So yeah, Scrappy says that everybody knows him. He's so famous. And Duke like responds by saying he looks smart enough. I'm like, since when do you have to be smart to be famous?
Well,
but
yeah, because he goes, he looks bright enough. And then Shaggy goes, are you sure we're talking about the same dog?
Right. And off on the side, we see Tony and Carl again. So they are like, you know, continuing to be like, oh, he's so famous. That's definitely Scooby. He's one in a zillion. He's the key to a fortune for them. So they decide that they're going to kidnap him. And Carl, he like comes up with an idea, but he doesn't verbalize what he's going to do.
Yeah,
he just kind of laughs.
Like, he goes, oh, I have a plan.
And then Tony's just like, I like the sounds of that already. And it's like, he didn't say anything, but okay. So Shaggy makes a joke about Annie's hair at one point because Annie was like, oh, I've really missed that you've been gone all this time. And yeah, and then Shaggy was like, I'm surprised that she knew he was even gone. Mm-hmm. Like, they go outside of a grocery store, and this is a scene that I noticed this episode in general has a really weird focus on the detail for the backgrounds.
I don't hate it, though.
I actually really liked it. This was a very detailed background episode.
Like, as they're walking, you can see how much each, like, fruit stand costs. So, like, some are 50, some are 80 cents. And then they walk into the grocery store, and there's a sign that says shoplifting is illegal.
Or it's a crime. Yes.
That's what it was.
But even like later when we see like angled shots of like the warehouse that they're going to be in a little bit, like it actually looked pretty nice and like accurate. It didn't look wonky like what we usually get in Scooby-Doo. Not to say that this episode isn't free of its animation errors or its like, you know, reused content, because, you know, when we see like the cityscape that's always being repeated over and over again, that was pretty, you know, typical.
But so back to it is Scooby then gets kidnapped by Carl and Tony.
Yes.
So, you know, Tony had this great plan. The plan was to wait outside the grocery store and hope that Scooby was so distracted by all the food in his arms
that he just
walked
into a truck.
Yeah. Which, unfortunately for Scooby,
it works. Yes, but it's like, okay.
It's like,
this is fine.
Sure.
I like that he got in the truck and then started screaming and like
then realized
just open it, because the thing is, it was just a hatch until it was like a delivery truck.
Yeah, and like the door was only half closed on the bottom
because there wasn't a top at the time.
Yeah,
so he could have like jumped out because the car wasn't moving yet. He could have just unhatched it. He could have done anything. Instead, he just screams. Shaggy realizes what's going on, and he starts chasing after him.
He catches
up with the truck.
Okay, now here's my question too. Shaggy catches up to the truck easily and like almost right away. Mm-hmm. Shaggy could have jumped out of the car. Shaggy could have undid the latch.
He has opposable thumbs. He could have done it. I mean,
they just stood there.
But now they're both kind of screaming for Scrappy, Duke, and Annie. So they all start chasing. They don't catch up. But I didn't know that when Shaggy was reaching into the truck, a crate fell out.
Yeah.
So the crate, it like breaks apart on the street, and the Scrappy gang, they look at it and they, you know, kind of examine it for any clues to indicate where they're going. So they find some kind of shattered merchandise that was in the crate that said made in Japan, and Scrappy insinuates that they're taking Scooby to Japan.
Yeah.
I like that he, for one, sounded like he really believed it, but also didn't sound concerned. He was just like,
honestly doesn't care that much.
They're taking my Uncle Scooby to Japan.
Oh, darn.
Oh, no. And then Annie says Paris, and he's like, Paris, Japan? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. No, so there is a place in New York City called the Paris Warehouse. It is apparently only a subway ride away from where they're located at the moment.
Okay, which also, I want to know how Duke, like, knows New York so well. Like, does he take the subway often?
Well, he lives there, Shannon. I'm sure he knows.
So does Annie, but she doesn't seem to really know. And Scrappy lived there most of his life.
How many warehouses do you know in this area, Shannon?
None.
Okay, I don't blame Annie for not knowing. I don't know how Duke knows.
That's what I'm asking, is how does Duke know everything?
He's homeless.
He just travels the subway for fun?
Yes, that's exactly
Annie
what he's
has a
doing.
home. She sleeps. Like, she's chilling.
Yeah, she's not out looking for warehouses. Duke's probably slept in the Paris warehouse. Who fucking knows?
So sad.
It is sad, but we didn't really even describe Duke. Duke just looks like a mutt.
Yeah.
He just looks like a, little mangy mutt. They both have really cute New York accents, though. I really like that. Because I've also mentioned Scrappy's has that accent in the first season of the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. He kind of loses it, though, over time, but
accents
it's nice to hear it with the other dogs in this episode. That was a detail I did appreciate about this.
What I did like, too, though, is because, like, Duke is a mutt, he looks like a mutt. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Scrappy-Doo, and Scrappy-Doo definitely looks like a purebred, but also, like, a miniature purebred. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, it's weird. But, and then you have Annie, who also looks like a purebred. So it's funny that you've got, like, these, like, pureblood dogs, and then this...
You got the mutt, who is incidentally homeless.
Good job.
I noted that Scrappy is the only dog among the three that walks on his two legs when they start running to go to the subway. Yeah. He was running on his two legs, but then Duke and Annie just resorted to their four. I thought that was just really weird. Now we cut over to Scooby and Shaggy. They have now been held up in this room in the Paris warehouse. They don't understand why they've been kidnapped, and I don't either, because, like, they're not famous. Yeah. I don't get it.
So they ask who Tony and Carl are, and I think it was Tony responds with, "We're two mean crooks who are going to lock you up until someone pays us a fortune to let you out."
Then Carl, he's going to go, he said something like he's going to go call someone to see if anyone wants to pay the ransom for the dog. And Scooby's like, "What dog?" Yeah. And Shaggy's like, "I think they're talking about you, Scooby." And he's like, "Oh, right, I'm a dog." So he starts growling at Tony. Tony, like, intimidates him back, and then, Scooby backs down. But I'm just like... What? Scooby. Yeah. Scooby. So this is when Carl, he goes outside to a payphone, and he goes, "Operator, get me Hollywood. I don't know, anyone in charge of paying ransoms."
Like, he was just trying to get anyone. The thing is, Scooby and Shaggy then climb down some sheets and end up right in front of where he's making this call.
They're trying to make the escape out the window, yeah.
And we overhear him go, "What do you mean you don't believe me? Of course we have them." Yeah. So he obviously got to somebody who knows Scooby well enough to, like, pay the ransom and know if Scooby is missing or not.
Right, like... Apparently Scooby is so high up there in the chain of famous people to where, like, the guy knows who he is, and also it's just like, there's no way you have him. Yeah. Like, shut up.
Well, and because, like, you think about it, even if he got, like, let's say Scooby has a manager, and he gets, Scooby's manager, the gang hasn't reported him missing.
That's right, because Fred, Daphne, and Velma don't even know what's going on. So, like, Shaggy can't call anybody, exactly. And the dog, the puppies, they're puppies. I mean, like...
So, like... His manager's not going to believe him. He's going to, of course you don't have him. Like, they would have called me.
Well, it hasn't even been like an hour yet either. Like, who knows what's really going on. So they end up, getting caught by Carl, and he takes them back into the room where they are.
They said, "Oh yeah, we were just coming down for some fresh air." Well, that's about all I can take. And then they, like, climbed back up or whatever. It was funny.
We cut back to the pups. So they are outside of the subway, and they want to ride it, over to the Paris warehouse. So I think it was Annie that said that they need money in order to get on the train. And Scrappy just is like, who needs money? And I'm like, me. I need money, Scrappy.
Scrappy tries to, like, run into the subway and ride it without paying. And Duke tells him, no, we can do this. We have to listen for one specific sound. So, like, Duke's done this before. Like, he knows what's up. Yeah. And so somebody drops a penny or whatever, and it starts rolling, which the penny was, like, 25% of Scrappy's body.
It was, like, the size of a quarter.
Yeah, honestly. It was huge.
And another weird thing that I noticed is that it had the letter Y on it. Yeah. I don't know what that was about. But yeah, so it rolls, and they're trying to chase it down. Annie bumps into a gumball machine, and Scrappy and Duke chase it into this sewer that is, like, right off the side of the corner of the sidewalk. Yeah. So Annie decides to use the gum that spilled out of the gumball machine to, they chew it and they attach it to Scrappy's tail, and now they're just kind of fishing for it. Yeah. They manage to get it out, and Scrappy's like, "Well, we now need 2 more," and Duke's like, "Not necessarily." So they hop into a trench coat and they disguise themselves as a single person.
And also, Duke just has this trench coat and hat laying around.
Yep. Duke is resourceful.
He is.
I like to think he is a
honestly,
very resourceful pup.
Duke's a chill dog. I'd hang out with him too.
So they attempt to get through the station, and the guardrail that they have to go through, it ends up like knocking the coat off of them, and they get caught by the security guard inside.
They start running for the subway, and Duke and Scrappy hop on the train, and then Annie runs into like the side of the train, and they pull her on before it rushes away.
It's another one of those gags where she can't see. It
so
got old.
Funny.
If you guys have noticed that we haven't been talking about them, it's because they're just everywhere and we don't want to identify every single one. So that's your one right now. So we cut back to Scooby and Shaggy. They now want to put a note in a bottle, like you do on an island, and throw it out the window until it floats to someone to read it.
Except they're in the middle of New York City where there is sidewalk.
I wrote down, Scooby and Shaggy plan to escape by tossing note bottle out of window. Obvious problems are obvious. It gets stuck on Scooby's paw. Shaggy pulls it off and accidentally tosses it out the window, which was fine because that's what they wanted to do in the first place. But, of course, it shatters on the sidewalk outside.
And you just see, like, the note, like, float away.
It floats away. It was a nice little detail. I appreciated it. And then I believe it was Tony that comes in, and he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, nothing. And
they, Scooby and Shaggy were, like, nervous laughing a lot in this episode. Like, they were genuinely scared.
I mean, you don't know who... Like,
I mean, they were kidnapped,
these guys have kidnapped you for a ransom, and, like, you're not even anybody.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna pay this ransom? You're gonna end up dead.
Well, and that was... So, they asked, like, what was going on or whatever, and the crooks are asking for $1 million for Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
And Shaggy's response is literally, no. And I'm like, Shaggy doesn't think that they're worth it.
No, they're not. So then Tony reveals, because, it went out the window. They used the same window to try and escape with the sheets. So he presses this button that's right next to the window, and these bars come down to, like, prevent them from using that window again.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking a few things. So for one, why didn't they just use this in the first place? Because you're holding somebody ransom. And Scooby and Shaggy have pretty relative freedom in this room to move about. Like, they're not tied up. They're not, like, bound to anything. They're just locked in this room. So, like, why didn't you just lower that bar before? Why didn't you do it when they first tried to escape with the sheets? And also, it's a single button that he presses in order to lower the bars. I'm half wondering, like, if you press it again, does the bar just go back up? Like, that seems like a pretty easy thing to get around.
I feel like that button should be, like, on the outside of the door. But, that's just me.
Just something that I would suggest for future kidnapping plots. Cutting back over to the Scrappy gang, they have found the warehouse.
Scrappy tries to, like, head first just run into, like, the door or whatever to open it. And I don't remember what the specific comment was, but Duke said something like, oh, don't do that. And then Scrappy did it anyway. And Annie's response was like, yeah, you know it. Like, you should be used to it by now. That's just Scrappy.
Yeah, because Duke was like, he'll never learn.
Yeah.
So like, evidently they've dealt with this forever.
So
like, even before he left with Scooby.
Yeah, Scrappy's always been a hothead is what I took away from that. Like,
I believe that.
He was just born pissed off.
So they are hiding, like, behind these crates. And they decide to see, like, what's in the crates to see if they can, like, use anything to get into the building.
Yeah.
They find bows, like for bow and arrows, and they find plungers. So, naturally, you use the plunger as an arrow. They use the plungers as, like, a ladder system off, like, the wall. And they climb up. Did they climb up to the window, or did they go through the roof? I think they went through a window.
I think they went through a window, because then they ended up, like, in that room.
While they're doing this, Scooby and Shaggy are trying to make an escape through a vent. And Tony and Carl see them, like, they see the dents in the vent through the ceiling.
Somehow they know exactly where they're going.
Yeah, and I think Shaggy was like, look for an exit sign. And Scooby's like, okay.
Okay.
So
this whole time, like Shaggy will say something and Scooby responds with, okay, Shaggy.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, he's just so scared.
I know the pups managed to find Tony and Carl and, like, confronted them, and I think it was Tony that called Scrappy a puppy, and Scrappy was, like, triggered by this. I'm like, why?
You're a baby.
You take ownership of puppy power literally all the time. You did it, like, just a minute ago.
Yeah.
And now he's fucking triggered over the word puppy.
Yeah.
He's just like, a puppy? I'll show you a puppy. And it's like, oh.
Okay.
Basically. I don't remember like how this ended. I just know that Tony and Carl ended up going outside. They found the vent that Shaggy and Scooby were coming out.
I know Scrappy jumped on one of them. I think they kind of just like threw him back and then just shut and locked the door. Because the door was locked. The puppies couldn't get out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember really what happened.
Yeah.
All I know is that Tony and Carl, they went outside with that truck that they drove earlier. They captured Scooby and Shaggy, who just like fell out of a vent out of the side of the wall, which that's not how vents work, guys, but fine.
The note I wrote was Scooby and Shaggy try to escape through the vents. Some bullshit happens and they somehow end up in the car again.
But in the truck, they've now been taken to this boat that's at these docks. And I think the puppies, when they managed to get out of the warehouse, they followed Duke's nose to follow the tracks for the truck.
So Duke has like a nose like Scooby.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I wrote down, apparently Duke has a really great sense of smell. Also, Annie thinks she's sexy. Yeah. I think she tried to seduce Tony when he was in the phone booth.
I wrote down, somehow they're on a boat now. I don't know why. Also, Annie has feminine wilds. The bad guys are still trying to get $1 million, and the person on the phone also doesn't think that they're worth it.
Yeah, it was Tony that was calling them this time, not Carl.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what was said. All I wrote was Tony can't get the money from the one person who thinks Scooby is not worth $1 million. So Scooby, he kind of fucks up a bunch of times from here on out. So Scooby and Shaggy are like in this lower deck on the boat. Shaggy finds an inflatable raft that they're going to stick outside of the window of the boat, and then they're going to both sneak out through the window, jump onto the raft, and then swim to shore. Scooby sees the string coming out of the boat, and he's like, "What's this?" And he naturally pulls it before Shaggy has even gotten it out of the window, and now they can't get it through the window. Yeah.
So then the puppies, or should we call them?
I've been calling them the Scrappy Gang, the puppies, the pups.
I just keep putting small dogs.
That sounds like okay, go for it. That's fine.
No,
not my notes.
So the Scrappy Gang get on like a smaller boat that Tony was on to ride to the bigger boat so that they can rescue Scooby.
Why am I like having amnesia about that? I don't remember that at all.
Carl like hung up the phone and then like he was riding back to the bigger boat, and then we see the gang, or like the Scrappy Gang under blankets or whatever in the back of that boat.
Okay.
And somehow they get on the deck. So then this is where just all the bullshit happens.
There's a lot of bullshit.
So basically,
Tony and Carl have gone to write a ransom note, by the way.
Yeah, so they're gone for
I don't know who
like
they're
this
sending
whole
that to, but yes.
So Scooby and Shaggy are on a bunch of boxes, like 1,000 of them, like from the ground up. And then the Scrappy Gang see a hand kind of come through like the deck, and they're like, "Oh no, it's the kidnappers, like let's get them." So they like all jump on the thing, which knocks all the boxes down, and Scooby and Shaggy fall down. So then they like open it up and they're like, "Oh, Uncle Scooby, like super sorry." And so Shaggy yells like, "Just throw down a rope," and Scrappy throws the whole rope down, forgetting to hold on to the other end of it so that they can climb back up. Somehow I missed how Scooby and Shaggy got out of the hole the second time.
Oh, they took that inflatable raft and they decided that they didn't have any other way of getting out.
I think that was the end part, though. Because that's when they caught him.
I have no other notes.
Okay, well then hold on.
All I know is that Scrappy kept fucking up their plans, and Shaggy and Scooby are aware of this, too. They're like, the Scrappy Gang needs to stop.
Up. Yeah. Okay, so here, I'll just keep going because I have all of this, and then I'll just go through it quickly. So somehow Scooby and Shaggy get back up. Scrappy then pushes them back down. Then Scooby and Shaggy get up again, but then the gang jump on like one end, because now they're gonna try and like actually like kidnap the kidnappers or whatever. And so they jump on.
I don't know what's going on.
They jump on like one end of like the seesaw looking thing, and Scooby and Shaggy happen to be running there. So then they like get plunged off and then right back down the hole again.
Now they're back underneath the deck. Yeah.
So then the crooks get the Scrappy Gang under a net so that they can finally like stop fucking up.
Yes.
And that's when Scooby and Shaggy get on the raft. They pop it and end up like flying all around, like left and right and come back, whatever. They end up landing on the deck, which then also captures the crooks in the meantime underneath the raft.
How did you get all of that? Because I don't even think I wrote any of that. I think I just wrote antics ensue. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what happened to this
Like, there was just a lot of bullshit, and I was just like, I have to do this. But yeah, so once they kidnapped the crooks, I think it was Tony was just like, can we just be placed in a nice jail cell?
I did have one note that happened during all of that I thought was kind of funny. When Scrappy and the other dogs, they accidentally trapped Scooby and Shaggy again when they did the counterweight.
Yeah.
Scrappy was so sure that it was the crooks.
Yeah.
And Duke was like, I think that was your uncle, Scrappy. And he's like, no way, that couldn't be. And he's like, I also think it was them. And Scrappy goes, crooks are tricky that way.
Like, tricky enough to dress up as your uncle and Shaggy.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yes, they have captured the crooks underneath that raft. They now have found Fred, Daphne, and Velma later on, I guess, that same night.
They came back to pick them up, I think.
Yes, and Duke and Annie are saying goodbye to Scrappy, and they want to hear him do his secret whistle one more time.
As a parting gift.
Shaggy is like, no, and he's like, don't do it. And then Daphne and Fred are like, what harm could that do? Like, it's fine.
It breaks the fucking mystery machine.
I wrote Scrappy says goodbye to Duke and Annie by whistling and thus destroying the mystery machine. It shatters all the windows and the windshield, and it pops all four tires of the van. Yep. My last note is just that the dogs should not be walking around and that shattered glass is just literally everywhere right now.
Well, yeah, because it ends with like Scrappy like in the broken glass.
He's standing on the dashboard of the van. Yeah.
Like, control your dog.
And note that this entire time, other than that, have a nice visit, Velma has done nothing. She is just standing there silent.
If she said the have a nice visit.
I really don't think she did, but I mean...
Like, I'm not going to argue with Scoobypedia, but at the same time, like, I don't think it was her.
I thought it was Daphne, but either way, Velma had very minimal lines one way or another. So that was the Ransom of Scooby Chief. Sorry if that sounded a little rushed, guys, but I mean, honestly, just so much happened real quick. And it's just the nature of Scrappy, I think. I think Scrappy is just an agent of chaos that just causes everything to go south. I don't know. Shannon, what did you give this episode on the Scooby Snackometer?
I gave it a 5.
Really?
I did really like it. It was still kind of dumb to me.
Okay.
But, so I did really like the episode. I just kind of feel like a 6 is, like, too high for it.
Okay.
But I don't want to give it anything less than a 5, because I did enjoy the episode. We laughed. There was a lot of, like, decent one-liners.
I'm also giving it a 5 for similar reasons. I think it's weird because this episode didn't really have, like, a mystery going on, like all the other episodes in this same series did. Mm-hmm. It was more so like a rescue mission on part of Scrappy and his friends. I really wanted to applaud the backgrounds. Like, this episode was actually really well done in terms of actual presentation. I think that the backgrounds looked really nice. The villains were kind of annoying though. Tony and Carl, I didn't really like them. I don't really like this implied famousness that apparently Scooby is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I also get really weird vibes that this episode was supposed to be like a backdoor pilot for the Scrappy Gang. Like, I kind of feel like they wanted to make this like spin off into a different cartoon where it would just be Scrappy staying in New York with Duke and Annie, and they get up to whatever they get up to. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Scooby goes off with the rest of the gang, whether that show gets canceled or just continues as is without Scrappy.
I feel like that probably, like, I think it might have been a better option, but if they had done 2 different series, but at the same time, Scrappy was brought around to save
And
Scooby-Doo.
That's why I don't think it would have worked. I think that if Scrappy had been removed from the Scooby-Doo show at this time, Scooby-Doo would have failed.
Exactly.
I don't think it would have come back ever. But yeah, I also didn't really find it all that like great in terms of like comparing it to other episodes, even in the same season.
Yeah.
Like that Strange Encounters of an Alien Kind or whatever it was with the nuclear waste. Like, I loved that episode. Like, that's a really good episode, even with Scrappy-Doo in it. This one was fine. It wasn't bad. It's just not anything great. So, with my 5, your 5, we are awarding the Ransom of Scooby Chief a 5 out of 10 on the Scooby Snackometer.
All right.
So next week, we will be moving on to the second Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show, this one being that part of the Richie Rich Scooby-Doo show. This is the series where it has 3 7-minute shorts, so we will be reviewing 3 7-minute shorts next week. Shannon, would you like to randomize the collection of episodes we'll be watching next week?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
watching A Close Encounter with a Strange Kind, A Fit Night Out for Bats, and The Chinese Food Factory.
There's so many close encounters and strange encounters with
So,
not normal kinds. I'm
we-
so tired of that title.
We had like a close encounter with an alien kind, then we had a strange encounter with...
I have, let's see, I'm looking on the list of episodes we reviewed. Strange Encounters of a Scooby Kind. And that's what we did in season 2. And then the next episode in season 2 was Close Encounter of the Worst Kind.
I think we also had a close encounter with an alien kind or something similar to that in this series.
That's what that second one was.
Oh, that's what that... Okay.
That's the one when they go on the scavenger hunt.
But yeah, so we got a lot of...
strange and close encounters. Yeah. I'm tired of it.
I'm interested in the Chinese Food Factory.
Well, do you want to hear the premises for these episodes?
Oh, yeah.
Because I have them up for you.
Right. We do that.
Yeah, we do. They're all coming from Scoobypedia, guys. So for A Close Encounter with a Strange Kind. While out camping in the woods, Shaggy, who is asleep in his sleeping bag, is kidnapped by aliens, and it is up to Scooby and Scrappy to rescue him.
I wonder if it's another...
scavenger hunt going about. Go find a human hippie.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be clean, but just find him and bring him back. Now we have A Fit Night Out for Bats. The guys end up with a flat tire in front of an old mansion, and when a storm comes, they go inside for help and shelter. While inside, they find it's inhabited by a vampire. Interesting.
Oh.
I'm curious to see what that one brings us. And then there's the last one, the Chinese Food Factory. Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy get jobs as night watchmen for a Chinese food factory. But one night, a ghost is seen lurking and is caught stealing the safe.
I was hoping, like, it'd be something weird with Chinese food.
I don't know. Maybe like a Chinese-themed ghost or something. I didn't get a good look at that ghost. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? Well, that is those 3 episodes that we'll be reviewing next week. Shannon, are you ready for a fun fact today?
Yes.
So this episode that we just reviewed, the Ransom of Scooby Chief, fun fact, that is actually the very first Scooby-Doo episode that did not involve a mystery.
Oh, yeah. That's
or
true.
like have a supernatural monster or anything like that. In both cases, that's the very first time that has ever happened.
Oh.
This is also the last episode that we see Fred, Daphne, and Velma on a regular basis.
Which is sad.
And then if you guys are in the same opinion as us, then also this is also an episode where Velma doesn't talk. So all of those things are weird.
So we didn't even get like a good goodbye to Velma.
I don't really think we got a good goodbye for any of them.
Yeah.
But...
Well, it was funny because before we started this episode, you said, like, this is the last time we're going to see the gang for a while. So when the episode started and they were like, okay, like, have a good trip, I was just like, they're never coming back.
They're already leaving.
That's the last time we ever see them.
So if you guys want to talk to us about the Ransom of Scooby Chief or any of the episodes that we're going to be reviewing next week, you can reach out to us online. We are on Twitter at Groovy Scoobcast, Facebook at That Groovy Scoobcast, or Tumblr at That Groovy Scoobcast.
You can also check out our website, www.thatgroovyscoobcast.com.
Or shoot us an email if you like at thatgroovyscoobcast@gmail.com. With that, we hope that you enjoyed That Groovy Scoobcast.
Come back next week for Scooby Snack Filled Time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.